أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In generosity and helping others, be like the river. In compassion and grace, be like the sun. In concealing others' faults, be like the night. And in anger and fury, be like the dead. In modesty and humility, be like the soil. In tolerance, be like the ocean. Either you appear as you are, or be as you appear. We have started our Mathnawi talks with a poem from Rumi, and let's go through the poem slowly now. Let's start with the last statement. Either you appear as you are, or be as you appear. Now we have seen some guidance statements in the poem, and you need to be as you are. You need to be as you are, or you appear as you are. Now, in generosity and helping others, you need to be like the river. You need to be helping others, and you need to be like the river. You don't feel shy, you don't feel jealous of sharing your water with others. You become generous and you let them benefit from your water. Similarly, in compassion, in grace, you are like the sun. You don't discriminate anyone. You don't discriminate between men and women. You don't discriminate between child and adult. You don't discriminate between a white person or black person. You are like the sun. You feel compassion. You show your compassion and grace to everyone in the earth. In concealing others' fault, be like the night. We might have fights between our friends. We might have fights between a parent and a child. We might have fights between two couples. But whenever you see a fault, when somebody else makes a mistake, how do you act? You act like night. You close their mistakes. You act like you don't see the mistake, and you close the mistake like the night. Be like the night. And in anger and fury, be like the dead. So in a statement, when you are angry, you're getting angry against somebody, you don't act upon your anger. You calm down. If you're sitting, you get up. If you're standing, you sit down. And you go into a level, you act like dead. You don't act upon your anger. In modesty, in humility, you act like the soil. You act like the soil. And in tolerance, you are like the ocean. You need to be like ocean. You are generous and you're tolerant towards other people. So, in Mathnawi, Rumi usually shares funny and simple stories. But these simple, funny stories actually reveal so much. They reveal something very profound about the human condition. And it's a guidance about the way things ought to be. And in Rumi, in Mathnawi, we get the Sufi perspective about the human condition, about how things ought to be. Mathnawi itself is a terminology used in literature. When you look at literature, it just means rhyming couplets. So it's a term used in literature. So many poets have actually written Mathnawis all over the history. But today, when we say Mathnawi, or when we say the Mathnawi, we remember Rumi's Mathnawi. It's the most known Mathnawi all over the world. So if you go to Iran and you say Mathnawi, people give the Rumi's book. If you go to other countries, when you say Mathnawi, you get the Rumi's book. But Mathnawi itself is just rhyme and couples, and so many poets have written about it. So Mathnawi itself is a profound work of religious poetry. But what is the intention behind Mathnawi? Why did he write such a book? The intention behind Mathnawi was that it should be used, it should be a for Sufi morals, for ethics. So people who read Mathnawi, they use the stories, the simple stories in Mathnawi as a guidance in their lives, as they take these moral guidance rules and they apply them in their life. So that's why every single story, whether it's long or short, whether it's very simple or complex, every story in Mathnawi encourages human beings to be reflexive. We don't look at the external story only, we look at the internal meaning. We look for the meaning behind each story, and each story, that's why, has a mystical response. It has a mystical reflection. And that's why Rumi was very, very occupied with feeling. Although he was very occupied, he was preoccupied with the thinking behind each story, Rumi also was so preoccupied, he was worried about the feeling, and he wanted the feeling. So he will say, you know, philosophers doubt if they're logical. And he says, tell them to slam their heads on a brick wall. He says, for water, earth, and clay speak, and each word by the Sufi mystic is clearly heard. So he says, you know, for a Sufi mystic, for a Sufi, everything that we see in the earth, whether it's water, earth, clay, they say something about the nature of God. It says something, it's a sign of Allah, and these are clearly heard, and these are clearly seen by Sufis. So, as we talked about the importance of stories in tales in Mathnawi, today I will be sharing two stories from Mathnawi, and at the end we will try to pull out some lessons, some teachings from these two stories. So the first story is about the story of a trader and the captive parrot. So a trader had a parrot, and this parrot had a beautiful voice, and he had a beautiful color, and the trader, the merchant, loved this parrot. And before this trader went on a journey to India, he asked all of his servants. He asked his children, he asked his wife, and others in the house. He said, what shall I bring for you from India? What should I bring for you from India? And everyone in the family had a desire. Some children wanted chocolate, and others wanted a clothes, whatsoever. And the trader, the merchant, didn't forget his parrot. And the parrot was able to speak, and in this way, he also went to his parrot, and he asked the same question. What should I bring for you from India? What do you want? And the parrot gave a response. He said, you know, when you go to India, maybe when you're walking, you will be able to see my friends. You will see a group of parrots. And please give them my salam. Please send my greetings to them. And please pass this message on to them. And the carrot continued. He said, you know, after passing my salam, after conveying my greetings to my friends in India, please tell them this as well. He said, is this acceptable to you that this friend, this carrot, should be restless in longing for you, and that he should, in this restless state, come to the end of his life? He says, you know, is it acceptable? Do you find it fair that your friend in Iran is in a cage and he has to live in a cage until he dies? Do you find justice in this? And he continued, for how long is it going to be acceptable to you that he should continue to be imprisoned while you can fly about in the greeny and from tree to tree? He says, how long am I going to stay here? Should I continue my life being imprisoned in a cage while you fly from one tree to another, while you drink water in the rivers, while you eat fruits in the gardens? And would you let me down? And he says, the remembrance of friends by other friends is a blessed thing. So, especially when between them lies the relationship of Layla and Majnun. So, you know, remembrance of friends by other friends is a blessed thing. So you should remember me. You should recognize me. And if we have the relationship of Layla and Majnun, give me an advice. So the merchant said, okay, I'll deliver your message. I will deliver your greetings to your friends in India. And when I come back, I will deliver back your message. And the merchant travels to India. He buys goods, and when he was walking by, he sees a group of parrots there, and he remembers his parrot. I have to say my salam to these parrots. And he comes, and the trader comes, and he delivers the same message. He delivers the complaints of the parrot in Iran. And upon this, one of the parrots hears the message, and she starts shaking. And in 1 or 2 minutes, she falls down from the branch of the tree, and she lands on the ground dead. She stops breathing. The merchant feels frightened, and he feels great grief. He says, I wish I didn't convey this complaint to this parrot. And he feels so bad about himself. And after his trip in India, he travels back to Iran, and he comes home. He distributes the presents for his children, presents for his wife, presents for his servants. And the turn comes to Parrot. And Parrot is so excited. He says, what happened? Did you see any of my friends? Did you talk to them? Do they have any message for me? And he says, you know, whatever you have seen or heard, please tell me everything. Please tell me everything. And the trader, the merchant, replies, you know, yes, I did. I passed your salam, I passed your greetings to them. And I also passed your complaints on to your parent friends. But I think one of them was greatly affected. She was shaking, and after a while, she fell down, and I think she died. And I feel so bad. And in this moment, upon hearing this, the parrot at home also does the same thing. The parrot starts shaking, and the parrot falls down and stops breathing in the cage. And the merchant feels frightened. He says, "Oh, what happened? What is this? What's going on?" And he starts crying, "Oh, my beautiful bird, oh, my friend, oh, my companion, what happened to you?" And the merchant thinks that the parrot died because of sorrow, or because of sorrow, and he takes him out of the cage and he puts him outside to bury him. And in that moment, the parrot flies. He runs away. He's not actually dead. So he flies away, and he comes over to a branch of tree very high. And he sits down on a high branch of a tree, and the merchant looks towards him and he says, "Tell me what's going on. Please at least explain me the reason, the meaning of this." And the parrot replies, "You know, the parrot in India made itself dead. He wasn't dead. He was not shaking. He made himself look dead on purpose. And he taught me a lesson. And I learned that my freedom attained in this manner. And that's why I acted. I pretended to be a dead one." And the parrot greeted the trader and said to him, "Farewell, goodbye, O master. Now I have taken the direction to my homeland. I'm going to meet my friends. I'm free now. And I leave you. And I make dua that may Allah free you from the chains of your nafs, like me. So, like me, you can also fly around in the nearness of Allah." And at that moment, the trader, the merchant, also learns a lesson. And he says, Go in the safety of Allah. Go to your homeland. You also taught me a lesson, the way towards freedom. I've realized that I'm also a slave in the chains of my desires. And if I want to feel closer to Allah, I also need to get away from the chain of my desires. Now, after telling this story, Mevlana jumps in. He gives an explanation. He gives the meaning of the story. And Mevlana Rumi, radiallahu anh, he has mentioned this story to inform us that the parrot did not find his freedom from the prison of his cage through long speeches or beautiful words or complaining or high shouting, or he just found his freedom by staying silent, by self-sacrifice. And in a similar way, nafs in human being, or the desires, or the ego, is a cage. These egos, these nafs, always keep human being in a cage. And it doesn't allow human beings to get near to Allah. And that's why you have to show yourself that you're dead. You have to put your nafs down. And that's why speaking needs to be controlled. There is a lesson. Even keeping in silence is a good thing. We have 2 ears, 1 tongue. Speaking and listening is always more important than speaking. The next story is also a story between a parrot and a shopkeeper. So two stories will be on the parrots. And we have another shopkeeper. He owns a shop in the city, and it's known as also Bakkal. He sells oils, bread, daily stuff, and he has a parrot in the store. And this parrot is beautiful in skin. It has a green color, and it has a beautiful voice. And this parrot also loves to talk to people so much. So when a customer comes in, he talks with the customer. He says, "Hello, how are you doing?" And the customers love him. So so many customers come to this shopkeeper because of the parrot, and they love to talk to the parrot. And when the customers come in, the parrot used to speak a lot and entertain the clients. And sometimes when the shopkeeper needs to go out, and when he needs to leave the store alone, he will go, and the parrot will be able to take care of the store. So he will greet the customers, and he will manage the store for a couple of minutes, not for a long time. And one day this happens. The shopkeeper goes out. He needs to do something outside of the store, and he leaves the store, and he leaves the parrot inside alone. And in that moment, a cat chasing a rat comes in. A cat comes in, and he's chasing the rat, and the parrot standing on the wall sees the cat, and he feels frightened. Oh, this cat came for me. He's going to hunt me. He's going to eat me up. And that's why the parrot flies over the store. And the cat is still chasing the rat. While he was chasing the rat, he drops the bottle of oil. He drops the bottle of the oil, and the glass of the oil breaks up, and there is oil all over the store. And the shopkeeper comes back in after a while, and he sees that there is oil in the store. He looks around, and he finds feathers, because the parrot was flying also when the cat came in. And he makes the decision that this must be the fault of the parrot. And he has an iron in his hand, and he hits the head of the parrot a couple times. And after that, the parrot becomes bald. He doesn't have any hair anymore. And the parrot actually becomes very displeased about this situation, and he stops talking anymore. He doesn't talk anymore. He keeps his silence, and when the customers come in, he doesn't greet them anymore. He doesn't say hello. And each day, the shopkeeper loses customers. And the shopkeeper also becomes so disappointed. He feels regretful for his action. But in return, he gives food to the parrot to make him speak. He gives him gifts. He gives him his favorite fruits, his favorite food. But the parrot doesn't talk. He keeps his silent. He keeps his silence. And one day, a man comes in the store. And this man doesn't have any hair. He's bald, like the parrot. And at that moment, the parrot starts talking again. Oh man, oh man. He asked question, how did you become bald? I'm bald, and how did you become bald? I know. You must have dropped a bottle of oil, and you split the oil on the ground. Because of that, you are bald as well. So people in the store start laughing, and because there was a wrong analogy. The parrot was comparing himself to the bald-headed man, and he had certainly drawn a false conclusion from there. And from there, Mevlana jumps in. He takes the control and he wants to give some advice behind this story. And he tells, "O loved one, don't compare the cases of saintly people with yourself. Don't compare yourself with the companions of the Prophet. Don't compare yourself with the prophets. Don't hold yourself equal to them. For although," he uses an Urdu word, share and share. Outside they look, these are two different words. They are spelled the same way, but one of them means milk and one of them means line. So although they are spelled the same, they have different meanings. Share, milk, is something consumed by men. It is something consumed by men. And their share, which means lion, it's an animal. It's an animal which consumes man. So they are two different things. Although they are spelled the same way, they have different meanings. Externally they are the same, but when you look at the internal meaning behind it, they are completely the same. They are completely different. And that's why our world is always full of these wrong conclusions, or these wrong comparisons, or these wrong analogies. Again, he says, good and evil, they usually appear the same in our eyes, but they are not the same. And sometimes some people will consider the saints, the companions of the prophets, as their equals. They will say, there's no difference between me and the companions of the prophet. There's no difference between me and the prophet. You know, if you say something against them, they will say, oh, we are men and so are they. We are forced to eat and sleep, and what is the difference between them and us? And Mevlana starts explaining again. Okay, externally, you can have things that may look the same. From the outside, it looks the same, but it does not necessarily mean they are the same thing in all aspects. And he gives a couple examples. Now, he gives examples now. Both the wasp, eşek arısı, the wasps and bee, they suck food, or they look for food, they look for nutrition from the flowers. They go around the garden, they go around the flowers, and they collect nutrition, they get nectar, and both of them feed on the same thing. However, at the end, the wasp usually produces poison, while the bee produces honey. Externally, they're the same thing. They go around, they collect vitamins, they get nutritions, and they go home and they produce something. But one produces poison, the other one produces honey, the sweet honey. Again, an evil-doing person eats from bread. They eat bread, they drink water. And what do they create in society? They still create stinginess, jealousy, evil desires. And saintly person, a good person, also eats from bread. They drink from water. What do they produce? They call for divine love and knowledge. He compares again. whatever a man does, an ape, a monkey can also do it. But how different is a man from an ape? Again, in a similar manner, now we have magicians in our societies. They do miracles, and when people see these miracles, they feel amazed. And prophets also have miracles. But what difference do we have between them? From outside, they're the same. But the miracles from prophets, it's a sign of Allah, and the miracles or the magicians, they are only they only, let's say, falsify our eyes. Again, pure and impure gold, from the outside, from the appearance, they look the same. When we take a pure gold and impure gold, we'll say, what difference do we have between them? But when you go to the market, when you want to change it, when you want to buy something, we will see how different values they have. So the lessons that we get here, one is that we should not compare ourselves with the saints of Allah, that we just say, oh, we are equal, there is no difference between me and them. Because the inner conditions differ so much. And we can compare this to a container. We might buy 2 bottles from a store. Each one of them will cost, let's say, $1. And we bring it home. And in one of them, we put perfume, very quality perfume in it. And the volume of this bottle goes to $500. And then when we put water in the other one, maybe the value goes up to $2. From outside, there are 2 bottles, but the inner value is so different. And let's imagine, let's put urine in it. Then the value was $2. When you put urine in it, the value goes to nothing. Nobody wants to even touch it. The other one, the other bottle that we put perfume becomes $500, and the other bottle that we put urine, nobody wants to even touch it. So we can conclude our session here with a dua, and we say, inshallah, may Allah grant us the ability to honor and respect the greatness of His companions, and save us from drawing foolish analogies and comparisons, and so that we can benefit from their teachings, and so that we acquire the eagerness to learn from them, inshallah. And we will conclude our session with a small recitation from Hamza, inshallah.